Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. This is brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting company for project, program, and portfolio management. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach today. I'm going to talk about some mega projects, and they are all construction projects because these days mega projects are usually in the construction area, or at least have a part of it that is construction. So let's talk about Britain's most successful mega projects. So one of them is Terminal 5, and although it says it was a success, there were a lot of problems with Terminal 5. It ended up not opening on time, but let me read a little bit about it. Infrastructure is not the new rock and roll. However, if it were, then with a seminal project management playlist ranging from Heathrow Terminal 5 via the Olympic Park and Crossrail on perhaps towards Thames Tideway Tunnel and the high-speed rail link, the best of Britain is fast becoming a greatest hit for the 21st century. So we had the Terminal 5, and as you heard, they're doing a lot of construction in Britain, which is good because that brings in revenue into Britain. It also helps turn around the new project management for the future. So what is a good thing about having mega projects? Mega projects should bring in the best of the best and should be training the new best of the best. But what we forget many times is that we try to keep it internal, and that's a little bit of what happened on all of these items at Britain. So for example, Heathrow Terminal 5 was 4.3 billion sterling pounds. So the UK has created an institutional environment for delivering mega projects in a radically new way. The United States and many countries are watching and learning. Sean McCarthy, Director of Action Sustainable and former Chairman of the Commission for Sustainable London 2012, is not convinced, however, that the benefits of project expertise and experience are being shared successfully. And I would agree. What happens is that the project management is kept internal to the companies that were on the projects, and it's not shared. So what I think is very good about this is that Britain is actually doing case studies on all of these mega projects to share with other project managers. And I think that is very good thing to do. So another thing that was shared is the $8.77 billion sterling pound for the London 2012 Olympics and Paralympics areas. So can you imagine that? 8.77 billion sterling pounds to do the 2012. So there was a communication breakdown is one of the motivators behind his leading role in launching the groundbreaking supply chain school. And we see that a lot is we forget to order the long lead items, or the long lead items are not communicated well. And the supply chain doesn't provide the things that we need in a timely fashion. So this person says, I see very little transfer of knowledge from mega projects to smaller ones. He argues, citing that the 2012 learning legacy following on from the London Olympics as an exception to the rule. We need to do more. Mega projects have a moral obligation to leave a legacy of knowledge, says Mr. McCarthy, and I totally agree with that. We do not hear about this. This would be a wonderful thing to teach in colleges for project managers that are getting their bachelor's degree or getting their master's degree. We've got to learn for these mega projects, but most of these companies don't want to share it because there's failures on it. But we learn from our failures. That's how a toddler learns how to walk. A toddler falls down more than he or she walks because they're learning how to do it. So share this. Another one was the Crossrail that was constructed in England. It was a $14.8 billion project. And so can Britain claim the credit for the best practice? Taking Crossrail as an example, the honest answer is both yes and no, explains Mr. De Silva. The majority of our people are UK-based, regardless of the company they work for. So yes, we could say we are the best of British, but we must also recognize that it's a global marketplace. We have to utilize the best of the world's talent to deliver the best outcomes. So why are we keeping it concentrated? And Britain's not the exception to the rule. We do that in the United States. We want United States companies to do it. But, and I agree that it's got to be United States companies, but we need to bring in the best of the best. So if there's a project manager that has done a mega project and has been successful on it, bring that person in to do that. And they don't have to reside in the United States. Maybe just for the project time they reside here, but they can go back to their home place too. Can you imagine if we brought in the best of the best, even though it's with an American project? So let me talk about one last thing, and this is a case study of the Tidal Lagoon, Swansea Bay. And it's a shame you can't see the picture of it, but it's right on the edge of a cliff, and it's on, I think it's in Wales, on the coast of Wales. So it's another UK project, and it's got U-shaped and leading in walls. So can you imagine that? It's just, if you have a chance, go out and look up the Tidal Lagoon Swansea, and that's Swansea Bay. And it's a beautiful building, but it's very different building. So many major projects claim to be unique. However, consent was awarded last month for an infrastructure development off the coast of Wales, said to be the only one of its kind in the world. The Tidal Lagoon Swansea Bay is a billion-dollar project to construct a 9.5-kilometer-long U-shaped wall to harness the natural and renewable power of the sea. So the twice-daily rhythm of the 8.5-meter tidal range will drive 16 turbines providing 320 megawatts to power 155,000 homes and save 236 tons of carbon dioxide a year. Can you imagine if we used renewable energy all around the world? And we're starting to do that. You see fans to harness wind in the seas and along the coast of California and along the middle parts of the United States. You see it, just vast amounts of it. Well, this one has harnessed what we could do, renewable energy from the sea. And while I don't know if this has been doing well, let's read a little bit. It's dubbed the return of British sea power. This is an ambitious project. As Director of Construction and Engineering for Tidal Lagoon Power, Andrew McNaughton explains, our vision is to build a scalable blueprint for a new form of power asset that will employ British industry to harness a British natural resource and return profits to British institutions. Absolutely, you should have natural things that bring back renewable things to your own country, but the construction doesn't have to be just only from your own country as well. The Lagoon project draws upon a long tradition, according to Managing Director of Atkins Design and Engineering, Mike McNichols. British engineering has enriched lives for centuries. Take the iconic landmark Britain has given the world, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Burj Al Arab, the skyline of Hong Kong. He says Tidal Lagoon Swansea Bay allows us to combine this wealth of knowledge with high quality skills and the type of pioneering spirit we've celebrated. Again, if you could see the actual design of it, you can see how different it is. The project is a game changer, he goes on to say. There is not a single solution with its rapid evolution. The design needs to adapt to multiple pressures while the team needs to understand we have to maintain the spirit of what makes it special. So I don't know if they're using agile, and maybe not because it's construction, but maybe they are. But they have to be able to adapt to the sea winds. They have to be able to adapt to the tidal basins coming in, the hard knocks that you get from the waves coming in. So it'll be interesting to see how they do all of this and to see the successful and to see if it is on time. Now, I'm not one that says with large construction projects they need to be exactly on time. There has to be a buffer, and we forget about that in many projects. And many times they take out our buffers because senior management says, no, you can do it in such and such a time. But you've got to be able to have those contingencies in place, and we forget to put them. Or the project manager will put it in place and then senior management takes it out. This is the wrong thing to do. You must have risk contingency, you must have schedule contingency, and you must have cost contingencies. And I would like to think that many times we see many of these projects not fail, but they have lots of bad press because they say they weren't on time or they overran their cost. It would be interesting to see if they were within their contingency, had the contingency be left in. So let's look at 10 developmental projects that are happening along the United States. And these are mega projects. And the first one is the Comcast Development Center. And it's already been built, although they're still doing a few things inside. And I was actually working in downtown Philly when this was going on. And it was absolutely a nightmare when you were in Philly trying to get around, because the train station was absolutely a mess. The roads were a mess, but it is a beautiful, iconic building, and it has changed the skyline for downtown Philadelphia forever. But it was a $1.5 billion development, and it stands 1,121 feet tall. It was designed by Foster and Partners. It's a super tall in Center City, and that's what we call it downtown, is Center City. In addition to creating a new home for the lead tenant, which is Comcast, a telecom giant, the CEO, Britton Roberts, has purchased 3 condos on the 45th floor, so it's got condos, and the soon-to-be tower, and it's already open, so this was written a while ago, will also boast a 4 seasons on the upper levels, making it the highest hotel in the nation. So it is a huge, huge tower, and it was late. But again, I don't know if it was done within the contingency. And I'd love to hear from the program manager on this, because I would love to hear what some of your problems were and how you addressed it. Were you able to keep your contingency within your project? Again, if you are a project manager on this Comcast development, I'd love to hear from you. I am in Exton, Pennsylvania, so we're very close. Please contact me. I'd love to have you on a podcast. You can contact me at wanda@pmpowered.com. The next one is the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard in San Francisco. Few cities clamor for affordable housing more than San Francisco. This re-imaged and reused naval site, dubbed by San Francisco Shipyard, began selling in early 2017, offering hundreds of relatively affordable condos in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. Now, I wanted to ask you, is that really affordable? Come on, folks, let's do affordability for everybody in the city's newest neighborhood, and we'll open more units later this year. We only look at the expensive condos, and I know maybe in San Francisco this is for the middle income, but let's do affordable income for everybody. Let's have some apartments that are for people, the poorest of the poor, so that they can see these beautiful things too. So let's go out for everybody. And that can be put in the development as well. Developers 5 Point Holdings also landed architect David Ajani to design and oversee the second phase of the development, which will roll out over the next few years, along with the in-process $6 billion Treasure Island project. San Francisco is very slowly building out capacity. So San Francisco is taking some of the areas that were trashy and were not safe and making them desirable places to live. However, let's remember everybody when we do this. So there's another one in Washington, D.C. called Capitol Crossing. The first phase of this sizable $1.3 billion downtown redevelopment in the nation's capital, a building called 200 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest, is expected to open later this year. It's a private project overseen by a DC-based development company. Capitol Crossings will eventually consist of 5 platinum LEED certified buildings. That means they are actually wonderful for sustainability. and reusability and reusable resources by landscape public areas. It's just one of the many massive projects such as the Wharf, a $2.5 billion redevelopment of the Southwest waterfront reshaping the district. So we're starting to see a lot of construction going on and redevelopment of sites, but we've got to understand that most of these are for business, and it displaces people. So we've got to make sure that we take into account that some of these people need to be put into affordable housing, and we need to make this affordable for everybody, not just for the rich. Let's go to Essex Crossings, New York City, home to many of the nation's largest and flashiest real estate projects. World Trade Center Commercial Tower is one of them. It's a beautiful thing. Manhattan is also set to see expanding housing options for those of more modest means. Hallelujah, we need to see that for everybody. Essex Crossing is a mixed-use mega project on the Lower East Side. It has started opening the doors to residential and retail buildings, including a number of more affordable housing projects, such as the Rawlings, named after the famous jazz musician. I would love to see project managers on this from all over the world that have been done in mega projects, but we have to also be training the new project managers to come in. We've got to be able to switch over the neuroscience aspect of project management. So if you are a successful project manager in this, make sure that you are training these new project managers and understanding how to keep the triangle going. So there is a triangle for variability, and we know that on these mega projects there are a lot of variables. How are you maintaining those variables and balancing that side of the triangle? Then you also have the finance. We need to make sure that that side of the project and program are kept in balance. So you have to have the variability and the finance of the triangle keep together and balance. And then on the bottom you have time. Time is a major factor, but we can't really address that in the same sense that we do variability and we do finance, because time is consistent. We can't lengthen time, we can't shorten time. We can try to make the project shorter or lengthen it, but we have to have a contingency for that, and we forget about that. So if you're a project manager on one of these or program manager, I'd love to hear from you and have a podcast, because I'd love to know how you kept those triangles and shapes, or if you didn't, what drove the triangle to fall apart and how did you recover it? Let's go to the next one. Los Angeles, Metropolis, Los Angeles. The momentum continues to pick up in downtown Los Angeles, and we all know that downtown Los Angeles fell into disrepair. After last year's crowning of the Wilshire Grand, the city's tallest tower, cranes are still swinging all over the fast-growing neighborhood. Again, if you're a program manager overseeing this development, so you're probably with the city, I'd love to hear from you on how you're doing this to make sure you bring in what you need for the downtown Los Angeles. Independent Austin. So I was looking at this building, and if you've never seen it, I was looking at it, and they actually describe it as a Jenga building. And if you look at it, it looks like a Jenga tower that's about to fall, because you have parts of it just look like that it's teetering on the other parts. But it's a beautiful building. So the tallest building in Texas Tech capital will put out the welcome mat this year as the so-called Jenga tower finally finished construction. When it says finally, I wonder how late it was or if it went over budget. The 58-story, $307 million tower, designed by local architect firm Road Partners, will be the tallest all-residential tower west of the Mississippi. So Austin's economy is booming, and you can tell that when you have development. So let's go on to the next one. The next one is in Boston. And the first phase of this massive redevelopment of Old Boston Garden Site, which will ultimately add a 1.87 million square foot of shops, restaurant, offices, hotel rooms, and residences, is set to finish sometime this year. I was actually in Boston about 2 years ago, and a lot of this construction was already happening. And my hat's off to Boston, because they are doing it in a way that really complements Old Boston as well. Eventually, the joint project between developers and Boston Properties and Delaware North will include a 38-story residential tower, a 21-story office tower, as well as a new transit connection and outdoor space. If you are the program manager or you are doing portfolio for this, I would love to hear from you. Please contact me at wanda@pmpower.com because I would love to hear about the trials and tribulations that you had on these mega projects and programs. And I know that they are a heartache, but they must also be very rewarding. So please contact me and let's discuss the hardships and the celebrations that you had. So here's another naval yard, the Hudson Yards. It's New York City. Manhattan will also see action on the west side as this new phase of the extensive Hudson Yards project comes online. My son's ship actually pulled into Hudson Yards. This was probably 2010 or 2000, maybe 2009. And while there were parts of Hudson Yard that I was willing to walk down, it was pretty scary to walk down at night, even though the police told me it was safe. So it's good to see that it's being revitalized. Again, if you are the project or program manager, I'd love to hear from you because I know there have been problems. And it would be nice to hear how you dealt with those problems. So the final one I want to bring to you is one in Detroit. And Detroit has been having some down spirals, just like a lot of other places. So this one is the earliest stages of what may be one of the biggest redevelopment projects in North America should be complete by the end of the year. This $3.5 million square foot Albert Kahn designed former auto plant, which had famously fallen into disrepair and disuse, should see a $16 million administration building open its doors later this year. Tenants have already staked claims for restaurants, galleries, and event space. The continued build out of the mammoth structure should help set up a very, very exciting 2019 for renovated and restored Detroit real estate. I'd love to hear from Detroit planning, because they are taking places that are in disrepair and disuse and revitalizing that. Can you imagine how exciting that is? And bringing new jobs to this area because they all need it. If you were the planning from the government or from the architectural firm, I'd love to hear from you. Again, my email is wanda@pmpower.com. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about these mega projects. I am Wanda Curley, your authority on project, program, and portfolio management. I would love to have you follow me. Please go to pmcurrent.com and follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. I'd love to have you follow me on my podcasts and other areas that I have to offer you on the internet. If you agree or disagree with me on anything, please contact me on wanda@pmpower.com. I'd also love to hear from you if you're a project manager. And it doesn't have to be on any of the projects that I've talked about. If you have an exciting project that you would like to talk about on this podcast, please contact me. Again, my name is Wanda Curley, and you can contact me at wanda@pmpower.com. It's great to hear from you. And I would love to see you next week. Have a great week.